All right, so this is just the raw footage that I'm putting on. I'm recording through Twitch. So what this is just a quick overview of what happens of some of the stuff in the division after you hit level 30. Now, the way that you hit level 30 is you kind of go through the campaign, which is pretty fun. I recommend doing that. I'm happy to drag anybody through it, but the downside of having me run the campaign with you is that since I would be in the group, all the enemies would automatically default to level 30, which depending on where you are in the progression, would either not really be that big a deal, it'd still be a bit of a challenge, or you would just get completely shredded. But the other side of that is too that I would completely shred everything. So any way you want to do it, but I recommend running through it solo because I think it's pretty fun. Anyhow, so once you hit post level 30, along the way you'll level up your base, which is, you'll see that. And I'm in the base of operations now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few minutes and go through a few things to kind of give you an idea of why I like this game so much and why it's fun to me. I have a feeling that most of the stuff in here, that the reasons that I like it is are familiar to RPG players. This is the first one of those I've ever done. So that's why I like it. Anyway, so once you hit level 30, the game really opens up. Kind of like in Destiny, once you hit level 40 at this point. Give me a second here. I got a list of stuff that I want to. But make no mistake, this is about gaining loot and tweaking out your character to play the game how you want. Now, one of the nice things about that is there's a million different ways that it can go. Let me start covering some of this stuff here. Now, one of the things that once you hit post level 30, you have access to on your way up to it is having to gear score. Now, there are currently a few, I think 5 different gear score. 63, 180 something, 207, 229, and 56. Don't ask me where to get those numbers from because I have no idea. Anyway, your gear score is dependent on the average of the individual that you have equipped, guns and armor. You have 3 different guns and 6 different pieces of armor. And the higher each individual gear score, the higher the average works out. Basic math. So I will take you through. I'm at 56. That's not that hard to do. It's not trying to get to 400 and pretty easy actually at gear 56. So that number is a little deceptive, as are your numbers. So what works is the level of gear that drops from the activities that you do dependent upon what tier you're in. You can tell different tiers 1 through 5. You do that from and the higher the gear score drops would be. So here at tier 1, there I think 163. There's really only one thing I go into tier 1 for, and that's to farm Phoenix credits, but we'll get to that later. I don't know if I've ever been in tier 2, 3, or 4. I spend 99% of my time at 5 because that's where the 256 stuff drops. And boy, does it drop like crazy. But I'm going to get into my build here in a second. List here. All right, so we'll start order on my list, but we'll start with my build. Some of the numbers in it. I'll get into the the pieces that I have later. But you can see my primary DPS 2, toughness 290, skill power 90. Primary DPS is second, but that number is incredibly deceptive. Toughness 205, that's about on. And skill actually fairly low, but that's how I have my stuff spec'd out. So I've seen builds that are like, 50 DPS, 5 toughness, skill power like 100. And I don't know how people do that. I can also say that my DPS is high, or my toughness is high as 4, and I don't really notice too much of a difference based on the gear that I have. DPS the way that I have is deceptive because the damage that I can do to top tier enemies is way higher than, which you'll see. But anyways, you have your 3 or your 3 weapons: primary, secondary, and arm. I use my sidearm very much. And then you have your piece, your mask, your knee pads, gloves, backpack, all of which come with stats, and the ones in yellow are considered high-end, which would basically be like the purples in Destiny legendaries. And the gear sets are the ones in the green, and those come with a certain amount of perks based on how many pieces of each that you have equipped. And I think there's about a dozen or so different gear sets. I would say just Google the gear set break, because it would take entirely too long to go over what they all do. But they have specific used in conjunction with each other, your overall build. Now the numbers here, DPS, toughness, are their indicators. What you really want attention to is the menu here and go over your and kind of get it. Now for me, the most ones are these two here: damage to elites and enemy armor damage is on mine is the highest I've seen, except for 63.5%. Your enemies, like in Destiny, will have shields on them that then are tougher to get through than the actual health bar. And the more armor in this type of build, the more armor damage, the better. And I think that's pretty much maxed out. I think it gets up to 5%, but that's shockingly high, which in this case will be the yellow enemies. Again, like in Destiny. Once I get that shield off them, it does 30% more damage to the yellow bars than it does to everything else. And being that point, I spend most of my time in your higher content, and they're all yellow. That's a big bonus to me. Now, you have the stash. Base is exactly the same thing as the vault in Destiny. What I do is, and I'm starting to not get full, but it's getting there, is pretty much anytime I get a gear, a reasonably decent weapon, I'll put it in here. A lot of times I'll use this as a bank to sell stuff too when I need credits. But I have pieces for every set. I don't think I have full sets. And a full set is considered 4 pieces. Anything beyond that is overkill. I mean, depending on the perks that the stuff has, you can equip as many as you want, but so I can pretty much come up with any gear set build that I want. I happen to like the one that I have now, which is a striker. I'll show you the perks on that. So on this, I have damage to elites and enemy armor damage. Always good, but the striker ones are, if I have 2 pieces, I get a % stability, which is big. An extra 10% enemy armor damage. And for this one, the 4-piece one, consecutive hit deals 1% more damage. stacks up to 100%. Missing shops, bonus by 2%, etc. So I do more damage because I have 4 pieces of it on. So each gear set will have a 2, 3, and piece bonus on it. Next. So those are the drops, and depending on the tier that you're playing in, will into the gear score of those items. Gear score, higher tier that you have access to. Next, how do you get all this stuff? Well, from just going out and playing, and I say that it's not a shooter. It's a looter 1, shooter 1A. The gameplay is amazing. Shooting mechanics, depending on how you have your build. But you can get stuff from the drops in the game from actually playing it.
Here's to surviving.
Only reason I'm here is thanks to you two.
Great back from the dead, Ben.
I'm really feeling it. This thing. I know we
Amen
are.
to that.
Hey,
You'll be missing
I got
out.
what you need.
And we're back. Okay, so stuff drops from the activities that you do. Most activities have specific, kind of rewards that it will grant. There is definitely some RNG. You'll get one piece of, it could be a mask with a million different rolls on it, a pack, whatever. But what you have the option to do into the different vendors that are available. In this case, I'll take you around the vendors of the. There's a weapons vendor, gear vendor, back here. I think it's called the security or something like that. You'll have the advanced vendor, and a lot of times, vendor will have a lot of. It's unusual for just vendors to have anything major. We'll have quite a few. Go down here into the which was opened up part of D1, the round that, especially weapons and vendors will use regular credits. The equipment vendor take Phoenix, which are basically like strange coin. So regular credits and strange. Also have the option, and these are Phoenix credits too, are blueprint. What you can do, collect materials like the planetary materials in Destiny throughout your travels through the division, and you can use those. You buy a blueprint for that favors electronics in this case. 582 Phoenix credits. You buy that, and you'll see for resource requirements on the right in the middle, fabric and electronics. Excuse me. And you'll use those resources to craft an electronics mask. And depending on how many resources you have, if you don't get the roll that you want on the first one you do, you make another one, and so on and so forth until you get what you want. Now, I'll take you through what the special equipment has. And this is high-end stuff. Archetypes of weapons, submachine guns, assault rifles, guns, and things like that, in addition to armor pieces, both yellow and gear set items, depending on the need. All in this case at 256 gear score. So, for example, the I'm wearing, I purchased this from the special equipment vendor because I pulled out my build and it had a great roll on it. It had armor stat and damage to elites and enemy armor damage. I don't think it had the damage to elites initially, but I was able to roll that on there. And what we'll do is through rolling in a second. What you can do is you can kind of recalibrate. You can do what's called calibrate your gear. Specific per can be rolled to something that might be a little bit more favorable to the build that you're for. So I'll demonstrate that. Do I have? I can re. Crap. What to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. I am a professional YouTuber, so I have to deal with the downtime. So, perks on is way more expensive than doing it on armor, so I'm just buying those and what it has on it, but we'll go down and take a look. So I'll go up to what's called the calibration station. Go down to my knee pads and I'll pick the ones. Oh, I did have a pair. Oh well. So actually, it's pretty decent roll on those. I think those are the ones I used to have. Pretty decent roll on here. So I don't need my knee pads to have, say, resistance. So I'll select that and I'll roll those for a cost of 30,000 credits. And let's say for the build I want, I would prefer burn resistance. So I'll pick that. And that's locked in. So I can't roll anything else on these knee pads. But if I wanted to roll something else on them down the road, I would be able to replace that burn resistance with something listed there on the right. So that's how that works. Now, on a gear that drops in this game, you can get filled up pretty quick. So what you do is if you find some stuff you don't want, any vendor that you want. So these ones I just bought, and I will sell those back and get a portion of what I paid for them back. It's one really easy way to build up the if you have to buy something that you really do want. So you have a weapons vendor and a gear here. This weaponry vendor over there for the good guns. And then the blueprints and special stuff or whatever down here. Now, this is your base of operations, so stuff's in here. Now, if you go into your map, all these little houses right here are vendors around the city. Each will have either a weapons vendor or a vendor. Now, one thing that the Division does over Destiny really like is that every Friday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time, the vendors' stocks or inventory resets. So they'll have different equipment with different roles, and it gives you something to kind of look forward to instead of having, I don't know about you, but I haven't bought anything from any of the vendors in the tower in Destiny since like the third week that Rise of Iron came out. So it's fun to go down and check those. I've gotten a few things from there. They don't sell any gear set things, but they do sell high-end weapons and armor, along with mods and attachments for your guns, which I'll get into now. So each piece of gear that you have is able to be augmented. So this is my primary. It is an assault rifle. I forget which one it is. The lightweight M4. So what you can do is there's all manner of different muzzles, handles, magazines, scopes, and things like that. That again, I'll drop from wherever, and you can use those to basically upgrade your weapon to its highest possible, level or whatever that you want for your particular build. So in this case, the muzzle that I have on there, adds ability, headshot damage, and critical hit chance. The grip that I have also adds stability, adds reload speed and accuracy. Don't ask me what the difference between accuracy and stability is because I don't know. I go more for stability than accuracy. What are you going to do? The extended magazine, this will really jack up the DPS on your weapon. It's 110.5% magazine size increase. So the base magazine that comes with this particular weapon has a mag of 30. This allows me to have 63. Ups the reload speed, and also ups the rate of fire. Now, assault rifles have lower magazine sizes than LMGs, but LMGs also take forever and a day to reload. SMGs have a way smaller magazine size, but reload lightning quick. There's the balance there. And what I have is gives me considerable increase in range, because assault rifles range isn't that great. The range on LMGs is pretty good, but not like marksman rifles, which I'll show you in a second. So that's what that does: range, headshot damage, critical hit damage. Perks on attachments cannot be rolled, so you kind of those, but enough of them drop that you're sure to find something you want. Now, as far as my secondary weapon, much like I roll with a sniper, and this thing is great. So I put mods to kind of add to what it can do. So I have on here stability, headshot damage, which is big for a sniper rifle, crit hit chance. The grip, also stability, range, and reload speed. Reload speed isn't a big deal for this because it has so many bullets in the magazine. It reloads pretty quick anyway. Extended mag, almost double the size of the mag. And critical hit damage, rate of fire. Rate of fire is not a big deal on snipers either because of the bloom, and it's hard to stay on target when you're firing away. And then the scope I have gives me some range, headshot damage, and crit hit damage. Also put skins on your weapons. You can change the color on that kind of thing. Not my thing, but for you cosmetic folks, that's good to go. And then I don't really ever use it. I shoot out alarms or something like that, but I don't really ever use it in a fight. As your armor goes, you have 3 types of modifications you can do: stamina, firearms, and electronics. Now, these all come with a base stat, like they say, stamina, firearms. But they also come with an additional stat that I go for. If I can't have armor, I have health. Everything else is just kind of, if it happens, the general rule of thumb is the more you have, the tough you're going to be. So my stamina mod has armor on it. My fire mod on it. Both increase the stat that they roll for, and so all my armor except for gloves, which don't have them, have my mask has a firearms mod on it. Firearms, obviously. Knees, what do I have here? I have an electronics mod on it, because in order to do something that second, my electronics has to be that. That's about all I can do. And chest pieces have 2 armor mod slots. Masks have 1 plus a performance mod. So in this case, the performance mod adds 5.5% first aid ally heal, which is an ability that you have. So it helps if I'm standing next to someone, I hit my self heal. Will apply to them as well and give them a little bit of a boost. Backpacks, 1 firearms, electronics, or stamina mod. Performance mods, and the performance mods can have all manner of stuff. It kind of depends on what abilities you use. Gloves don't accept any, and the holster has a performance mod on it. Next, my list and see what I want to talk about next. Okay, so that's pretty much kind of a 30,000-foot view of how your character is, and kind of get an idea of what you can do with it. I mean, it goes deeper than that, but you kind of have to get into the game, learn about what different perks are and things like that. So now we'll go down to the underground terminal down there, and this takes to kind of get, because what they're to load, because you have to switch. We'll kind of wait for this to go through the underground, and then we'll go over some different missions and some of the loot that's attached to it. Now, the way that the underground works is it is a, I think Jumbo put it best, they're basically the same as strikes. You kind of set some parameters of what you want to do. You can do it with a group up to 4 people. I usually do them by myself, but since I switched to this kind of armor shredder build that I have, it's more built for team-based play. But the nice thing about it is you can matchmake a mission, and it'll put you with, 3 other random people based loosely on the parameters that you set for the matchmaking. It'll put it at the, there's normal, hard, and challenging difficulties that you can do it at. These days I run more challenging than anything, and you have a separate for the underground. That's where I'm at right now, level 26. So you would come in here, the menu, start an operation by yourself. There you pick normal, challenging, go normal, and have phases that you, which is basically like strikes, I guess. I'm going to go to orbit, for lack of a better term. 2 phase only available on harder, challenging, and I haven't unlocked 3 phase yet. And then you pick which one you want, and with X, and from there, get you set up. Go through, confirm that you want to, and the train, and you go sewers and stuff like that. And what's cool is they're rated. They have about 40 environments that can be strung, and then 4 different types of enemies. So it can be random where you are and who you're fighting. And there's also objectives, modifiers, and not so much modifiers, but objectives. A lot of the time, sometimes they're just straight kill everything. Sometimes they're defend this thing, get this piece of information, whatever. So I seriously doubt that I've ever played the same underground mission twice. And it's a lot of fun, especially when you get with a good group. Challenging is hard enough with 4 people, but I ran one yesterday. There was 3 of us, and we melted everything. It was great. So that was part of the first downloadable content. So now, once we get back up here, I'll start going through your kind of all the different options of things there are to do. First are the missions themselves. If you run through the campaign, you'll have done all the story missions, and there's different missions that you can do from tech, I think, and security or whatever it is. But in addition to that, once you hit level 8, it unlocks the daily mission. Exactly the same in Destiny, but in this case, today there's 2 hard mode challenge or daily missions and 1 challenging, and those reset every day at 8 o'clock. So in this case, one of the hard missions is the Napalm production site, where you fight a bunch of cleaners. The other hard mission is the Russian consulate, where I forget who you're fighting, the LMB. And where is our mission for the day? Oh, it's not on here because I already did it last night after the reset, I think. Yeah, I must have. Anyway, so it'll be on challenging mode. Now, when you go to the hard mode mission, change the difficulty, and then it'll kind of show you what you get for doing it. So you get 10 Phoenix credits and an equipment item, in addition to the other stuff that drops from the game or from the different enemies. You move it up to challenging, you get 80 Phoenix credits for doing it, and then when it's the daily, you get an additional 20. So that is one way to start accumulating Phoenix credits pretty quick. So those are the daily challenging missions, or daily missions that you can get regular credits and Phoenix credits from. Another way to, in addition to all the loot that you get. Another option for credits and loot are your HVTs, your high value targets. Daily ones that reset every day. For, if you look on the bottom right there, it says how much target intel I have, which right now is at 65. You'll spend a certain, whatever amount of target intel. And in this case, you would get 30 Phoenix credits plus some loot that would drop at the end. The more you spend, the harder they get, and the more stuff you get. So for 10, I would get 35 Phoenix credits, a 256 equipment item, which is your chest or your mask or whatever. And then the dailies go all the way down to you get one gear set item, and so on and so forth, 50 credits. And these get more and more difficult in the sense that they start out easy and then get harder. And the higher difficult ones also send more waves. Daily ones, the weekly ones, these are considerably more difficult and are hard to do by yourself. Even if you're optimized, my biggest problem is trying to do these by myself is I run out of ammo. So I don't really mess with these too much on the higher level, which is almost never. So, but I mean, if you go to the top tier one, 110 Phoenix credits and then all that stuff you get, in addition to anything that just randomly drops, which is considerable a lot of the time. The two bottom ones, or the two most expensive ones, or excuse me, the bottom four there, those are high risk targets, meaning you get one crack at it. So if you go through and the team wipes, you don't get to try to run it again, and you're out those target intel that you spent to get it in the first place. The rest of these, if the team wipes, you still have access to it. You can go run it again. But these are a great source of loot. Now, what I'll do, if there's something that I don't have enough Phoenix credits to buy, is I will go through and go back down to tier 1. This is the only time I ever go down there. And so I can just kind of burn through everything real quick, and it's a great way to farm Phoenix credits if you need it. Let me check my list here. What else we got? These. Stash, my build. Yes, of course. Notorious Dark. So this in the was the Dark Zone. Now, what about that is the Dark Zone will scale to whatever level that you have, gear score that you have in your inventory, not just on your person, but in your inventory. So you can't, if you have a bunch of 256 stuff and then you just put on all of the pink 163 gear, that won't matter. But while you're running around out here, just the regular city, you're by yourself. You want to run into other people. It's not an open world like in Destiny where you see other random people running around. It's just you and your group if you're in one. However, in the Dark Zone, that's different. This is where PvP is possible. I don't go in here much, and I go down here very little. Honestly, the only time that I go in down here is if I see somebody's trying to extract something. I'll go in there and help them. But I don't pull much gear out of here, if ever. And if I see other people, I go the other way because most of the time you'll run into groups that just want to go around and slay everybody. So I don't do this too much. However, the way that the Dark Zone works is if, disregarding the PvP part of it, is you go in here, there's enemies of all types all over the place, and some named enemies as well, which I'll cover in a minute, that will drop loot. And you pick that stuff up, but you don't get to keep it unless you extract it. So what you'll do is, there's certain zones in here called extraction areas. What you do is you have your loot, and then you go to these extraction, you gotta make your way to these extraction areas, fire off a flare, which will call in an extraction something, helicopter or whatever. You have a minute and a half to hold off anything that comes in there and get your stuff pulled out of there. Once it's pulled out of there, you get to keep it. But a lot of times that's really not easy, especially if there's other people around that want to take your shit. So It's fun to do every once in a while. I do go in here sometimes, but it's rare that I try to extract anything just because I don't feel like dealing with it. And it gets more difficult the further north you go. So you have DZ 1 through 6, and you'll start out with mostly level 33 purples down here, and you'll run into more level 34 purple and yellow further north you go until you get all the way up to DZ06, where it's nothing but yellow 34s. Now, I will say that with this new build that I have, I went in here and pretty much melted a bunch of enemies that I ran into, including a named boss, and dropped a few pieces of loot. So I decided to say, fuck it, and went and tried to extract it, and actually called it an extraction. However, being that I was by myself, I kind of got overwhelmed by the enemies, the AI enemies that came, because it will attract a crowd when you fire that flare off, and I just got overwhelmed. There was just too many of them, so I couldn't get anything out. But I hung in there, and that was actually kind of exciting. So, really fun thing to do. Now, last thing I'll talk about is named enemies, and I'm going to go do one. Is placed in a few different, I think there's about a dozen of these, a few different places around the map. You'll have what are named enemies, which are guaranteed to drop some kind of high-end or gear set loot if you take them down. Now, you can farm these things. They respawn every 4 hours, and I'm going to go do one right now. It's called the Bullet King. And this is another good way to level up. I do not have a good route because I haven't found one yet for going through. I only know where a couple of them are. It's easy to look up and kind of see where they are, but I just haven't taken the time to do it. But this is kind of a quick little stop that I'll do when I kind of get going, and go take this dude out, and this will also give you an idea of how much damage I can do with the build that I have. So, bullets. And I know this dude is down here with
the safe area.
I'll chase them down. Soften them up with a grenade a little bit once I find them. There they are. And then I'll gun. So the pulse tells me where it is and also allows me to damage. Here's my self heal because I'm getting and there's about 20 different and stuff that you can have to character, certain massive talent that you have. And let's do. There's the name. Scare him out of there. Get out of my face. Do a fair amount to me here. I need to get him warmed up. And this isn't that high. So oh, there he is. Cover here. Cover end. Now, taken care of. Go fix his little red wagon. And the named enemies take damage than your regular one. Out of that, I got a mask and a scope. Take a probably won't help me very much, but in this case, doesn't help me. But here's the scope I got. That, critical hit damage. So, running and have the ability to do is being me, but help somebody else run. I would be able to on the ground my teammates would be able to up. So that is basically a general overview of some of the things that you can do in the how it works and on air. Something that you're thinking, I would definitely look into it. There's also, some game stuff you can versions, high level. That's pretty much it. So, nice. Hope this of what you're looking at when you get a vision. I think it's a lot of fun. I spent a full amount of time messing with my character, that's on my gear, trying extra little bit here and there. Probably spend about as much time doing that as playing the game. Playing the game itself is a lot. Anyways, go.
Jobs are apparently covered head to toe in hazmat gear with